This video shows the new client and warehouse active or mute checkboxes added to Rental Point software. For example, I can move the cursor over to a product and mute it for client or mute it for warehouse. Once muted for client, the line would not appear on any client-facing documents. There are two buttons that filter, showing the client view of the equipment or the warehouse view of the equipment, or combined. If a line is muted for client, it will not contribute to the price of the booking. As you can see, the price at the bottom, $3,167, is reduced by $108 when I uncheck the client mute. The user must hold down the control key before clicking the checkbox. Lines that are muted for warehouse will not appear on a plus sheet or warehouse and will not be reserved. For example, at the moment it is active. If I have a look at the running balance, then we can see on the 19th of March 2018, 4 acquired and only 3 available, which leaves a shortage of 1. However, if I uncheck it, save the booking and return, it will not be on the running balance. So here I am. I've saved the booking and returned. And now when I plot the running balance, we can only see that there's 2 required for AV Bridges 004. And there's no number shortage. Now there's 2 on this line, and there's also 2 on this line up here. This is the 2 that still appear on the running balance. If I unclick the warehouse box, and we're only left with the view of what the client sees, then I go and print it, I should get exactly the same printout as far as the equipment. Let's have a look. And here we have the quote opened with exactly the same equipment. So if I do a screen grab and place the screen up against the report, we should not see any difference. And here we have the screenshot up against the report just to check that they're identical. Now I'm going to discuss what happens to the equipment once it's checked out. As you can see, this is the warehouse view, and I'm going to go and check out the top half of this booking. Then we'll come back and see what the difference is. Now that I've checked out the booking, we can see that the out and in columns have appeared with the quantity checked out. And they have been checked out down to about the high intensity strobe light, and then 0 amounts after that. There's no difference to the checkboxes at this stage. However, I'm going to go and finalize this checkout without checking out any of those items that were previously reserved, such as the strobe and the solar and the snake light. Now let's see what happens. The result: the checkout on the client-facing view of the equipment is unaffected. The effect on the warehouse active checkboxes for all the items that were not checked out is that they've now become muted so that they won't be reserved for any future jobs coming up. For example, the high-intensity strobe light that was not checked out, we can see a quantity of 0 in it, and the system has automatically unchecked the warehouse active box. Same with all the other equipment that was not checked out. They're all now warehouse muted. Now, to show an example of how this feature can be used, I'm going to add a high-intensity overhead projector. So a fairly generic description, but I'm actually going to check out something that is a bit more specific. So I go to the checkout window and scan or type out a barcode for another item. I've scanned a 100-inch Sony video projector instead of the high-intensity projector. I will save that, and no charge. Now if I open the booking and have a look at what's happened, it has added the SVP, and it's unchecked for client, but it's checked for warehouse because it's checked out. At this moment, the high-intensity overhead projector is still checked for warehouse because we haven't done a final checkout yet. When we do a final checkout, it will become unchecked, like that. Obviously, there's two ways of unchecking it. We can go into the booking and uncheck it, or we can go to the Resolve Discrepancy window. Here's our high-intensity overhead projector, and here's what we checked out as a substitution for it. Match them up, and we can see down at the bottom here that the Sony projector is replacing the high-intensity projector. Save it, and when we go into the booking now, we can see that the high-intensity overhead projector is checked for client, unchecked for warehouse, and the reverse is for what we actually checked out. So the Sony projector is unchecked for client, but checked for warehouse. This is what the client will see, and this is what the warehouse will see. There have been some changes in the product setup. If I go into the high-intensity overhead projector, we will see some new checkboxes, or renamed checkboxes. In this case, it's checked for warehouse active. So when you add it to a booking, the warehouse active will be checked. We can uncheck it, so it will be unchecked by default. When it's used as a component attached to a product or package, then we can check whether it's going to be active on client-facing documents or not. So now when we add the overhead projector to a booking, it will default to warehouse muted, as we can see. The checkboxes also work for sundry lines and comment lines. So if you don't want the client to see your notes, you can uncheck them. Or if you don't want them to appear on the warehouse documentation, you can uncheck them.